So hello everybody, this is Bhante Joe here, and I'm just here in a suburban Canadian backyard actually. I came down to Canada and visiting relatives actually here in Windsor, Ontario. So usually I'm recording these videos in forests and these kind of things, so I thought that today, for a bit of a change, record it in a non-traditional setting. So it could start with maybe a little bit of meditation, so I can lean forward a little bit and arch the spine, and look about 3 feet in front, and close our eyes. And can focus in on the breath. Can know when it's coming in, and know when it's going out. If we breathe in a long breath, can just know I'm breathing in a long breath. And if we breathe in a short breath, can just know I'm breathing in a short breath. And can focus in on the breath at the tip of the nose. And if notice any patterns of tension or tightness around the nose, around the face, can just let those relax. And can relax any patterns of tightness around the cheeks, around the chin. And can focus on the breath. Trying to be aware all the way through the in-breath, as the in-breath turns to the out-breath, all the way through the out-breath, and as the out-breath turns back to the in-breath again. Trying to make mindfulness as continuous as possible. And when focusing on the breath in this way, it can be good to make one's mind a bit like a post in the sea. You can just imagine a post placed in the water near the beach. And waves come over the post, go up the beach, and they come back down, passing the post. In any event, the post just remains unmoving. So one can try to make one's mind this way. Just letting the breath go in, letting the breath come out, and being aware of it. And before we finish meditating, you can spread thoughts of goodwill, wishing may all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. And can open our eyes and do a short Ovāda for the internet. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Titiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. So after many years, I've come back to Canada, and it's been a really nice experience. It's funny because when one stays in a particular country for a period of time, then one tends to get used to the way things are over there, used to the way that things are done over there. And so in Sri Lanka, the roads are smaller and vehicles are tinier. And Canada is quite a large country. It has these very big roads and sidewalks, and you're walking on a sidewalk, nobody in front and there's nobody behind. There's quite a lot of space. And then this style is different too. Usually I hadn't seen so many lawns in Sri Lanka. This kind of thing with like a lawn is a different style. So of course, growing up here, all of these things are just normal. But then when one goes away and comes back, then these things seem like they stand out. You kind of notice them. These things tend to fade away from a person's awareness when they're not actively paying attention to it. And so there's a kind of interesting phenomena that can happen, which is that in whatever place a person is living, one tends to get used as one stays there longer. Once one gets used to the benefits that were there. When one first arrives at a place, wow, so many benefits, this is lovely. You kind of notice these benefits, almost like they jump out at one. It's kind of, wow, these are some really amazing features, and the things that are negative, one barely notices them, or in one's mind one downplays them. Oh yeah, that's no problem. I can fix that in this or that way. And over time, as one stays in a particular place, then what tends to happen is the reverse, these poles reverse, the situation reverses. So, in other words, the benefits that one one's perception of them starts to get less and less. They become more and more normal. But the negative things that one notices, those things tend to grow more and more. Those things tend to become more and more prominent in a person's awareness. So I remember before I left Canada, after having lived here for a long time, there were all these things that, kind of starting to grate on my nerves. And I come back here, I don't even notice them at all. And similarly, whenever one lives in a place like this is the case. So this is a phenomenon that a person has to work with in their practice as they practice Buddhism. All of these various things that a person sees in the world, sees about the way that their mind operates in the world, these are principles of cause and effect. They're principles of the Dhamma that operate all the time. So one of the tricky things is that there is usually goals that a person has for things. Ideally, there's goals or reasons that a person is doing something. There's ideally a purpose behind one's actions, not just an aimless action that's going nowhere. One of the words for samsara is that one of the things about samsara is this wandering on. It's this wandering that doesn't really have a purpose to it. It's like, so if somebody throws a stick up in the air and sometimes it lands on its head, sometimes it lands on its side, sometimes it lands on the other side, the tail. In a similar way, sometimes people wander without any purpose, just searching for sensual pleasures. It sometimes goes this way and sometimes goes that way, goes any which way. So when a person sets a purpose in their mind, then they have a reason for being in a place. And this phenomenon of the things that the benefits that are in the place are gradually reducing in their perception and the detriments gradually increasing in their perception, it's something that has to be managed against their purpose for coming there. If a person doesn't have any purpose, then when things start to get boring, they start to get difficult, whatever it may be, then this is reason enough for a person to leave because of sensual pleasures. Now, if a person follows this kind of wandering on mentality, just kind of running from one place to another, based on whatever it is that seems pleasant, then this is something that has no end to it. The other thing is that one can run from a place where the benefits were truly greater, or a situation where the benefits were truly greater, to a situation where the benefits are much less, because the situation where the benefits are less, in one's perception, they seem like they're more, until this phenomenon starts again, where one gets used to it. So as young monks, when we go to the monastery to train, the Buddha instructs monks to live under a teacher for 5 years. You can't just go wandering. The original monastic lifestyle was a wandering lifestyle. The monks weren't fixed in any one place. They were wandering here and there. Although sometimes you have these references in the canon to resident monks. But it seems like in general the monks were wanderers. So within this context of a wandering lifestyle, one had to stay under a teacher. And this is still the case. One goes to a monastery. One has to live under a teacher in monasteries with good training. And what this tends to do is it tends to force one to go against the grain of this searching for ever fresh delight, to go against the grain of this phenomenon where just through getting used to them, the beneficial things in one's life become less and less in one's perception. So when one does this, then one learns. It gives one a bit of a basis from which to actually evaluate, wait a minute, how beneficial are things here? Am I staying here the optimum amount of time? Have I done what I came here to do? Are the benefits really declining, or is it just my perception of them? Are the detriments really rising? Is this beneficial for me to stay here or not? Of course, for this we have to have a goal. And as Buddhist practitioners, as people who want to follow under the Buddha, then the goal is to become an arahant in his dispensation. To try to become an arahant in his dispensation. And with this goal in mind, then it can become more clear for a person why they should go to a place or why they shouldn't go to a place. What the ideal purpose is in a place and what it isn't. Now this may be a little bit divided between monks and householders. Lay people cannot dedicate their whole life to searching for the Buddhist goal or to trying to strive for the Buddhist goal. And so their purposes have to be somewhat balanced. But even in this case, the Buddha gives reasons. He gives standards for these things, standards for how to behave towards parents and children, how to behave at work, how to behave towards money. The Buddha gives standards for these things. And one can judge one's behavior, one's purposes against these standards. And one can take his standards, take what he says is good for the lay life, and use it to evaluate, is one doing this to achieve that purpose? Or is one doing it because it feels good right now? Is one doing it without a goal? Is one doing it without any checks and balances? Because it's when one does these things without any checks and balances, just following after sensual pleasure, then this goes in the way of defilements. It tends to be something that leads downwards. It tends to be something that has to search more and more and gets less and less patient, less and less determined, less and less disciplined in the search. So sometimes, coming back to Canada, if this was the case, you sometimes see this tendency or this danger, if you're a monk, to if one doesn't have a teacher, if one doesn't go through that training, sometimes as young monks end up going kind of here and there and all over the place, and then they end up disrobing. It's kind of the delight that they got in one place wears off, and they go to stay with another teacher, and the delight wears off more, and another teacher, and the delight wears off faster, and then eventually the delight in the holy life can wear off. So this is a phenomenon that can repeat itself in lay life, can repeat itself in lay life with jobs, can repeat itself in lay life with friendships, can repeat itself in lay life with these other things. And it's based on this phenomenon that the satisfaction that a particular thing gives decreases with familiarity. The more one indulges in something, the more one uses it, the less immediate gratification it gets. So the Buddha has us turn these things on their head to a certain extent. He has us have a goal in mind, and he has us evaluate whether our actions are going towards that goal. Because the immediate hit, like, oh, this lawn is cool, or this, it's neat that they have these big wide roads, this thing wears off over time. But there are some things that a person can do in their practice that start small and grow big. These are the things like keeping sila. These are the things like practicing generosity. These are things like practicing meditation. These things start off small. They start off innocuous. They're things that don't seem that exciting, but if one keeps cultivating them, they're things that grow. It requires time. It requires patience. It requires a goal. So coming back to Canada and seeing these neat things, I'm sure if I stayed here for a certain period of time, I'd start to think, well, those things are nice, but, Sri Lanka has all these really, really nice features. If I stayed here for another year or 2 years, I'd start to, daydream about all these nice things that I had in Sri Lanka and totally forget if there was anything that I thought, well, it's better to do the way that they do in Canada. So all the time, the supreme faculty is this faculty of wisdom. It's this faculty that evaluates in a clear way. It has to be balanced by this samadhi. And these things, overarching them, is this goal. This goal, since we are disciples of the Buddha, we want to become arahants in his dispensation, underneath him. We want to find an end to suffering. And this is a goal, and there's a method to that goal. So if we go to places, it's good. If we go to places and we can evaluate our purposes in being there against this goal, we can evaluate what we do against this goal in the Buddha's instructions on how to achieve that goal. And in this way, this phenomenon, oh, this grass is nice, it's nice that it's cut, but it's starting to fade, I better go somewhere else, we can short-circuit it. We try to find happinesses that are more and more stable until the day when we can find the happiness that doesn't change. Okay, so leave that for reflection, and wishing everybody all the blessings of Dhamma practice.